We are joined now by our friend Michael Bruntz from Husker 24/7. Bruntsy, what's going on, bud?
Not much. How you guys doing?
We're good. We're good. Hey, so Bruntz, we kind of talk quarterbacks, but not what took so long, but more this. I want to know what you think about this. So I'm a big fan of, people should make environments. Environments don't make people. And I'm trying to convince Ravi and our listeners that I think part of the way that this whole quarterback announcement came about was I think Nebraska wanted to make sure that not only it was a competitive environment, but they prolonged the inevitable with the distractions and all the variables, right? I think Nebraska wanted to control as much as they could control before they turned Dylan out like, hey, free, go, run in the wild. Like
you mean before they took the brakes off the hype train?
Right. Like,
full steam ahead, baby?
Don't you like? I don't know if you're a Band-Aid ripper and you just go, but I think they wanted to make sure that they had trained him in such a way where the environment didn't matter. The media requests, the national shows, the people coming in for interview requests. Like, could I convince you that was a thing? And if you say yes or no, does it have any merit if it's a yes?
Well, I think they were very measured with it on purpose. I think by delaying it, the reaction yesterday was more of, oh yeah, like as expected, or as we, that kind of thing. And that does, I think, kind of help to maybe kind of deaden the hype a little bit. I mean, it's going to be what it is, anyways. I don't know that it was ever going to be a situation where they could just, put the packets of put the packets for UTEP down on the media table with the depth chart in it. And here's look who's number one here, guys. Like I don't think it was ever going to be that. But no, I mean I think part of it too was, when you officially label it, you also kind of signal to the other people in the group that are actually competing for spots on that list that it's kind of over. You know what I mean? Like that it's settled. So I think that was part of it. And maybe the way it was handled was, as much as you kind of knew who QB1 was going to be, you still needed QB2 and 3 to be pushing one another behind him, and to have there be some kind of reason to compete there. So I think that was a piece of it too. But yeah, I mean, I think the way that it played out, I'm okay with, because you kind of knew where everything was headed, but at the same time, like, you just kind of let things go about, the way they are. And it kind of plays in too to the way that Rule does things, right? Like, let's focus on today. We're not worried about next week or the week after that. I mean, I just think you needed to, you also didn't really need to just hand the keys too early. Like you needed to let him get the license first. You can't just hand over the keys when he gets the permit.
Bruntz, you mentioned kind of the other guys in the room, Harburg and Kalen specifically, pushing both themselves and Raiola. How much do you think the way that this quarterback situation ended up playing out, even though we all kind of assumed all along it was going to be Dylan, has to tie in with this thing that we heard Coach Rule talk about last week about second stringers having the mindset like their first stringers? Do you think he was maybe trying to use that as an example for the rest of the team?
Yeah, I don't know if it was, just because it was last week that he said that. I mean, I think that kind of, I think now looking back on it, yeah, I mean, I think you kind of have to do that a little bit. And I guess that's kind of what I was trying to get at in a really ham-handed way, was that, like, you need those guys to continue to compete. I mean, you don't want guys to say, I'm a second teamer, this is where I am, this is my kind of reality now. I think you kind of have to, you got to be careful with that and how you do it. And I think they, by dragging it out, were able to, at least, kind of hopefully give a little bit more or fight against more of that thinking of, oh, well, I'm the second team guy now. This is where I'm at, and be comfortable with that. So I don't know. And I was thinking about it too. And I wonder, I'm sure this probably wasn't even a thought over there, but I'm probably just, paint my own thoughts on here, but it feels like the way that it was done. You tweet the picture. It's very like kind of minimal, whatever.
Wait a minute. My man is like this scenic panoramic view of like the back of his face, like looking at like, you don't think that was calculated?
But I mean, what I'm saying is that like, the thing that they've said over and over again is that we need to be better around the quarterback, whoever it is, right? Like, you need to be better at wide receiver. You need to block better. You got to find some kind of running game with the running backs. Like, if it was going to be, Dylan, or it was going to, you were going to have to put somebody else in there, the offense being better around him has been, I think, a lot of the focus that they've really kind of tried to put out there this fall. And I guess, it kind of, in my mind at least, goes along with, this is our guy, we're throwing it out there. But at the same time, like, you got to be better around him. Like, as much as it's about him, I mean, it's about that whole group as well. And I think that's, you guys know how it is now. Like, there's a graphic for everything, right? You got graphics for everything. You got 200 cameras at every practice. Like, if they wanted to blow that thing up and make it a big deal, they could have done that, like, easily. And I think, the kind of understated way that they did it with, the tweet, here's our guy. I think that kind of falls in line with the way they're looking at the offense this year is, the quarterback needs to be better, but you need to be a heck of a lot better around him too.
Okay. So let me ask you something, Bruntzy. How would Michael Bruntz personally, whether it's 24/7 or maybe it's like leadership in your own household, I don't know, whatever. We have this mentality of, man, the secondary person kind of thinks too much like a secondary person. You need to think more like primary. Yet you have to pit that against, man, it's pretty competitive. There's going to be a lot of good players that may not play as much as they like. Is that message for the same people? And if it is, how would you handle staying in the moment?
All right. So walk me through this again. So
like last week it was, man, I didn't really like the twos. They think too much like twos. Like this whole next man up thing. Mm-hmm. But then yesterday it was, gosh, you know what? Like, maybe hard for some really good players to play because we have a lot of good players.
Yeah. I mean, you're as a coach, you're probably trying to make sure that guys are trying to be in that column, right? Of like, and you're hoping that guys embrace competition. I think, like, I think that's the hope.
Are those two different sentiments, or how would you mesh those? Because on the surface, they sound like two different things.
Yeah, they do.
I don't know I don't think they are though.
No, and I guess I don't know. I would hope that guys who were on the roster last year and saw how quickly you can go from not playing as much as you want to play to playing a ton.
Oh yeah.
I would hope that guys having gone through that could be like, okay, like I can see this. I mean, you try to correct the attitude about the twos. I mean, Emmett Johnson's a pretty good example of that, right? Like, you go from being number 3 or 4 on the depth chart, and in a span of a couple hours, you're the starter basically.
Literally.
So,
and the only option.
Literally.
Right.
Yeah, that is a good one.
We can't have you returning punts in any kind of serious way because we need you to be our starting running back. By the way, you were with the 4s last week. Like that. Like there's plenty of examples from last year.
Well, how about Purdy?
Stuff happened. Yeah, exactly. Purdy's a good one. I mean, you had guys on defense
wait,
that were the same way.
you're groin what? Up. You're up.
Yeah.
And now take a 70-yarder to the house.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think I think they can be kind of the same idea. At the same time, like if a guy is not playing as much as he wants to play, you've got the injury examples. I mean, I'm sure James Williams, the first couple of weeks of the season, was not expecting to have the role that he had. Like, I think that's what this coaching staff can say is like, look, like things are going to happen because of the way that we practice, the way that we play, where guys are going to get hurt. Also, if you bust it during practice and, play hard and show improvement, like they're going to find a way to get you on the field. I mean, this staff more than any other, I think is pretty open-minded to playing a guy that can help them, which, what a concept, right? But I think I would hope that guys would be able to realize that a little bit, that they're not far off from being able to contribute.
So, okay, I like that, because I think at the end of the day, what we're trying to say is, hey, man, you just better be the best version of yourself. Let the situations take care of itself. So here's the thing. Do you look at within the specific position groups differently? Like wide receiver may present a different scenario than, like, let's say D-line. D-line may think, oh, shoot, man, we're on a rotation. We're all going to play. Wide receivers may be thinking, fudge. Am I the sixth best wide receiver, or will they use the third best tight end to be the sixth wide receiver? Defensive backs may be thinking, that front line is pretty good. We ain't playing unless somebody gets hurt. Like, so it's kind of different for those groups. Do you look at it differently, or is the standard still the standard of, man, you know what, you better be the best you can be, period?
Well, I mean, I would hope that you'd want to be the best you could be, period. But I think the point is, I mean,
that's pretty myopic. Unless, do you see how that could just be best case scenario? Like, you still have to, like, stay in the moment. Okay, yeah.
I get what you're saying. No, I mean, like, but if you're the third guy behind big ass Ty Robinson, like you're probably not getting on the field as much as, say, like if you're the third tight end, which they're going to use. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's situational. So yeah, I think you have to fight that as a coach, probably, and that's probably, I don't know, where you earn your money as a coach, right? How do you get those guys to stay dialed in and being the best versions of themselves? I mean, that's why they write the checks over there, I guess.
Side note here, Bruntz, speaking of big ass Ty Robinson, was there any part of you, like when you saw that photo of the single digit numbers, that was like, did he get photoshopped in later? Why is he so much bigger than everybody else?
Well, I felt like that about Singleton.
I was looking at him, I was like, was that like one of the, like when The Office can't get the picture right of the entire group, and like Kevin's 8 feet tall? I was like, what the hell is going on here?
I did that one time in a family picture. I was like standing way too far out from the group, and I moved myself in like 3 feet. But no, I mean, he's that big. I mean, that's the thing that has been kind of striking this fall camp, is just how much bigger Ty Robinson is than he was last year, and looks like he's just a 28-year-old man playing with a bunch of 14-year-olds. Like that's just how he looks. So, and it's funny too when I've got a few photos I've used from availabilities where he's like standing next to Nash, who's 20 pounds lighter than he was last year,
but also a very big man.
Also, yes, very, very large himself, very big ass himself. I think
jeez,
it's very striking. And yeah, I actually thought they bookended that photo pretty well yesterday, all things considered. It was like I don't know if they posed it just perfectly. Obviously, the numbers being what they are, they had to, but yeah, it worked out well.
It's not like Jamari was real small either. That was another one that was like, oh dear God.
Yeah, that one is stretched.
Yeah,
it looks like a sidewalk.
Yeah. They basically, I was in my head, I'm like, did they give him like a wide receiver jersey? Like, is that the only one they had?
Is that Billy Kemp's jersey?
Yeah, we have a Wester Camp's jersey sitting around over there. Here, put this on.
We'll get you another one, but you got to do this for the photo.
Hey, Bruntzy, if we're gonna do like what we do and we hang on every word that is said coming out of North Stadium, are we more or less encouraged on August 22nd about special teams?
I don't know.
Isn't it? I am so glad you answered it like that, because I don't have any idea either. Like, is it good or is it bad?
Well, I mean, and things have changed because, I mean, when was it? Tuesday was the availability with Ed Foley? And Matt Rule had kind of seemed to imply that there was some question about how ready Tristan Alvano would be for the start of the season. And, 3 days later, he's at 90%. So I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of the thought that with special teams, I just kind of need to see it. And it also kind of seems like, you can kind of control what you can control in practice. You can dial up pressure, crowd noise. You can bring teammates in close, so it's more of a pressure-packed kick. But it's really tough to recreate kicking on a Saturday. You know what I mean? So that's, I don't know. I think it's probably the best way I can answer that question is we'll see. I do think, and I'm intrigued by the idea of Ja'Cory Barney potentially returning something, whether it's a punt or a kick. Like, I feel like they might have something there, but it's it kind of remains to be seen if that'll happen. So my big long answer is I don't know.
I love the delivery of I don't know. Like, we may have to cut that up when somebody asks me a hard question.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
Bruntz, I do want to stay on special teams here for a second because I was thinking about how Coach Foley mentioned, how Rule lets him use starters on special teams. Does that speak to you in any way about how how much they care about special teams or how comfortable they are with the depth on defense that they, because we just talked about Emmett Johnson
or offense.
or offense. We just talked about how Emmett Johnson is like, you're not going back there last year. Like so it has to be at least some of that. Like, how did you process that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think there's any fear on their part that they're going to use a starter or, even a freshman, a talented freshman in a coverage role or on a block team or something like that. Like, I think they're very willing to do that. And I think part of it's an emphasis on special teams. I mean, also, Nebraska just has a lot of depth at certain spots that lead to, guys playing on special teams. When you have as many scholarship defensive backs as Nebraska does, you're able to, mix and match guys. You can put starters out there, but I do think it's something that they've emphasized since they've been there. Of, if why not put one of your best players out there if the depth situation is okay to go run down there and tackle a returner or something like that. I mean, as much as we're talking about chasing three and all this other stuff, a good way to make sure that you get those three and win tight games is being good on special teams. That's why it's the questions at this point in the offseason are still a little concerning because you need that part of the game to be better than it was last year, and that's the concern there. But I do think it's an emphasis. I do also think it's a reflection of depth that some of the guys don't have out there on special teams this year.
All right, shoot me straight, Mr. Pragmatic. When you watch this offense and you're plugging in quarterback play, what do you want to see? Do you want to see the consistencies of like converting 3rd and 5s or 3rd and 6? Or does Michael Bruntz want to say, gosh, you know what? It'd sure be nice to generate consistency and generating big plays.
I can't have both. Can I have both?
Well, it's seldom works. So you know why I asked the question? I go back to Taylor Martinez freshman year. And early on, it was big play after big play. And all I would tell people is, hey, man, once you get to conference play, I'm not sure how sustainable this is. So it's always kept me, and it's the coach in me too, right? Like, Sure, I'll take big plays any way I can get them. But
Yeah.
the truth is, yeah, they're a lot harder to come by.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah, they are.
I'm just curious what you think your eye will gravitate towards that you think will be the biggest medicine to last year.
Yeah, no, I think it's the third down stuff. I think it's extending drives. One thing that in limited viewings, again, we've seen some, not a ton. I'm eager to see if Nebraska can kind of get the short game going. Like, can you on time throw a ball in the flat to Jalen Lloyd, who can go get you 7 yards, rather than having to turn around and hand it off to the running back? Because I think that has to be a piece of Nebraska's offense. And I know everybody kind of gets a little cringy about the swing pass to the outside and how it's looked in the past, and rightfully so.
Be nice to complete it, though, right?
Yeah. No, or you guys not having to turn around and reach for it, that kind of thing. No, I mean, I'm curious to see if that part of it is part of the offense, and I think that Dylan has the ability to hit those passes at a higher level. I think to me, it's more the intermediate stuff that I want to see completed with more consistency, because it's been so long since Nebraska's been able to do that with any kind of consistency. So I'll take that over the big plays, but I would love an occasional big play, because you got to have the threat of that.
Yeah. Like teams that play
bit
for championships have explosive plays, but it's weird how they can they can make those critical plays on, the 4 or 5 times a game they come up to.
Right. Like, I would love to be able to see Fedoni be hit, 15 yards over the middle on 3rd and 7 a couple times a game. Like, that's what I would like to see. But I think you need to have the ability to hit the deep ball, but I think the more intermediate stuff is what I'll be watching.
That's our guy, Michael Bruntz, Husker 24/7. Bruntzy, we appreciate it as always, and we will talk to you next week.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate you, Bruntz.